They treated me like a failure. Then I bought our childhood home. Throwaway because my family still hasn't stopped calling me. I'm 31, and growing up, I was always the disappointment. My older brother Daniel was the golden child. Straight A's, sports, scholarships, and now a lawyer with a big house and 2 kids. My younger sister Chloe was the princess. If she messed up, someone fixed it. If she needed money, someone gave it. Me? I dropped out of college. That single decision became my identity in the family. I was the one who wasted potential, the one who never figured life out. Every family dinner turned into subtle reminders. They'd ask when I was going back to school, compare me to my brother, or talk about how responsible my sister was becoming. Even when they tried to sound supportive, it never felt supportive. It felt like they were waiting for me to fail again. I worked warehouse jobs, delivery gigs, night shifts. Nothing impressive from the outside. I lived in a small apartment and drove an old car that barely started in winter. To them, I looked stuck. What they didn't know was I started teaching myself coding at night. After long shifts, I'd sit at my laptop watching tutorials. At first, nothing made sense. I almost quit multiple times. But slowly, things started clicking. I began taking small freelance jobs online. The pay was tiny, but it was something. Those small jobs turned into bigger ones. I kept my expenses low and saved everything. I stopped going out. I stopped trying to impress anyone. I just worked quietly. Over time, I built a small software tool for a niche industry. Nothing flashy, nothing viral, just something useful that companies actually paid for. The income wasn't crazy, but it was steady. I lived cheap, saved aggressively, and invested carefully. My family never noticed. Whenever they asked about work, I just said I was doing freelance stuff. They'd nod politely, then change the topic to my brother's promotions or my sister's plans. 3 years ago, my mom decided to sell our childhood home. It was a big house in a neighborhood that had become expensive over time. She said it was too much space now that she lived alone. At dinner, she mentioned she hoped to keep it in the family, if possible. She looked directly at my brother when she said it. He hesitated. He talked about mortgage rates, kids, expenses, and timing. He said he'd think about it. My sister said she wished she could buy it, but couldn't afford the payments. Everyone seemed to assume one of them would figure it out eventually. I didn't say anything. A week later, I contacted a lawyer and asked about making an offer. I had enough saved to pay in cash. The lawyer handled everything quietly. I made an offer slightly above asking price so the deal wouldn't drag out. No negotiations, no delays. The deal closed in 2 weeks. The house was mine. I didn't tell anyone. I knew exactly how the conversation would go. They'd either laugh, question where the money came from, or try to convince me not to do it. I didn't want any of that, so I stayed quiet. A month later, my mom mentioned she was finally listing the house. We were all at dinner again. She talked about meeting with the realtor and setting a price. I just nodded and didn't correct her. I figured the paperwork would surface eventually, and it would be easier than explaining it in advance. 2 days later, the realtor called her. Apparently they were confused. The property had already sold. My mom thought it was a mistake. She told them they must be looking at the wrong listing. They sent her the paperwork to confirm. That's when she saw my name. The family group chat exploded. At first, they thought it was a joke. Then my brother called me directly. He didn't even say hello. He just asked, "Did you buy Mom's house?" I said yes. There was a long pause, and then he started yelling. He said I went behind everyone's back. He said I knew he wanted time to figure things out. He said I stole the house from the family. I reminded him he never made an offer. That only made him more upset. He said I should have told him first. My sister called next. She was crying. She said I did it out of spite. She said I knew the house meant a lot to her. I told her she never planned to buy it. She said that didn't matter. It was still a family decision. That was the first time I realized they all thought I wasn't supposed to have a say. Then my mom called. She didn't yell. She just sounded hurt. She asked why I didn't tell her. I told her I wanted to buy it and didn't think it was a big deal. She asked if I would consider selling it to my brother, maybe at a discount. I told her it was already in the family. She went quiet. Then she said, "That's not what I meant." She said she wanted it to go to someone who would live there. I said I hadn't decided yet. That answer didn't help. Over the next few days, the guilt trip started. My brother said his kids deserved to grow up in their dad's childhood home. My sister said I was being selfish. My mom said I was creating unnecessary division. For years, they treated me like I wasn't reliable. Now suddenly I was supposed to sacrifice for them. I finally told them no. I said I planned to fix the house and maybe rent it out. That's when the tone changed. My brother stopped sounding emotional and started sounding angry. He called me greedy and said I was trying to prove something. My sister said I was holding a grudge from childhood. My mom stopped calling for a week. The silence felt heavier than the arguments. I realized this wasn't just about the house. It was about them not expecting me to be the one who ended up with it. About 2 weeks later, my brother drove by the house. I had already hired contractors to start basic repairs. The place hadn't been updated in years, and there were small issues everywhere. Nothing major, just flooring, paint, and some plumbing fixes. He saw the work trucks outside. He called me immediately. He sounded furious. He said I was destroying memories. He asked how I could turn our childhood home into a project. I told him it needed repairs anyway. He said that wasn't the point. He said I was turning it into an investment. I told him that's exactly what it was. There was a long silence. Then he said, "You really don't care about this family, do you?" I didn't answer right away. I didn't know how to respond without making things worse. The next time we all saw each other was at my aunt's birthday dinner. The tension was obvious immediately. My brother barely looked at me. My sister acted polite, but distant. My mom tried to keep conversation normal, but everything felt forced. At one point, someone asked about the house. My brother laughed quietly and said, "Ask him, he owns it now." The tone wasn't joking. Everyone went quiet. I explained I was fixing it up. My sister asked if I was really going to rent it. I said I might. She sighed and said it felt wrong. My brother then said, "Loud enough for everyone. Must be nice, secretly having money." That was the first time I pushed back. I told him it wasn't secret. I just never bragged. I told him I worked, saved, and bought something I wanted. He didn't respond. He just shook his head. My mom changed the subject, but the atmosphere never recovered. The rest of the dinner felt uncomfortable. After that, things became quieter. Not resolved, just distant. My mom still called sometimes, but less often. My sister sent polite messages. My brother stopped contacting me entirely. It felt like I'd crossed an invisible line. Sometimes I did feel guilty. It was our childhood home. We all grew up there. Every room had memories. But then I remembered years of being treated like I'd never amount to anything. Like I couldn't handle responsibility. I didn't buy the house to hurt them. I didn't buy it to prove a point. I bought it because I finally could. And for the first time, I didn't ask anyone for permission.